How's it going, everybody? Welcome to a special bonus episode of the Hoots Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the Hoots Podcast anywhere you get your podcasts from, especially Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Speaking of Spotify, I should mention to everybody, they have a new feature where you could upload videos to your podcast feed, and it goes on the Spotify platform. So you can actually have video podcasts on Spotify. So if you use like an iPad or your regular cell phone, you can actually see videos on Spotify now, which is pretty cool. And that's what we're going to do for this bonus episode today. I'm not alone today. I am joined by Rob Aurelius, my good friend from ARCG Media. Rob, welcome back to the Hoots Podcast. What's going on, brother?
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be back at the Hoots Podcast. It's been a while since you and I have actually seen each other's faces, whether it's in video or person. So I'm really happy, man. I'm sure we're going to have a great episode.
Yes, on this episode, we're going to talk about our experience down in Dallas, Texas for WrestleMania 38. Like Rob said, this is our first time getting to chat and shoot the shit, if you will, about WWE since we're down there in Dallas. And I had a great time hanging out with Rob in person for the first time. We're going to share those stories with you guys. Also, there's a lot to talk about with Cody Rhodes. He made his return to WWE. We're going to get into that as well. We got this Saturday, Money in the Bank at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Coming up on Saturday on Peacock, SummerSlam. And then towards the end of this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about mental health, as it is Men's Mental Health Month as well. So thank you for hanging out with us. And Rob, let's start off with this. So like when we did our last podcast, this was the first time we get to talk to each other. We talked about what was heading towards WrestleMania. Now we're down there in Dallas. And, you know, for me, this was my sixth WrestleMania trip. This was my third of it covering it. A little different spectrum because I was not in the press box covering it typing wise, but I was still, you knew this, I was still doing my articles down in Dallas while the weekend was going on. But for you, you've been to WrestleMania. You got to cover WrestleMania a bunch of times. For you, if you could compare it, how was this WrestleMania trip and experience for you compared to other ones that you've been to? Is it up there for you, or is it the very top?
Yeah, well, let me just say this. This was my fifth WrestleMania. If we didn't have the pandemic problem, you know, it would have been my sixth. My first WrestleMania was in 2017. I went as a fan and I went as a spectator. ARCG Media already existed at the time, but it was my first WrestleMania, so I didn't really have my foot in the door yet with the WWE as far as the media side of things. So I went as a fan. And, you know, when I was there, I couldn't believe that I was finally at WrestleMania. You know, it was an open field, you know, the Citrus Bowl in Orlando, and it was very windy that night. Yes. And, you know, I was happy and I was sad because I was happy when the Hardy Boys returned. I mean, the pop. Till this day, I still have the photographic memory of the Hardy Boys running down. Remember how long that ramp was at that WrestleMania? It was the longest ramp in WrestleMania history, right? I still have the photographic memory of the Hardy Boys. I still have Jeff Hardy in my head doing this, you know, going down the ramp and just freaking out and saying to myself, man, I finally get to see the Hardy Boys. I mean, I've seen the Hardy Boys wrestle in the past in the Indies, but it's not the same. You know, it's not the same when it comes to the WWE. But I said to myself, man, I get to see the Hardy Boys wrestle in WWE, you know, for the first time, and especially at WrestleMania. And then I was sad because that was the night that, you know, we all thought The Undertaker was going to retire when he lost that match to Roman Reigns. So when Undertaker did that whole cinematic thing in the ring, you know, took the hat off and the gloves and all of that, I was sad. You know, I was sad because I said to myself, that's it. This is it. You know, this is the first time I get to – because if I'm not mistaken, Josh, I think that may have been the first time I've ever seen The Undertaker wrestle. And I have seen The Undertaker at other shows in the past, you know, like Monday Night Raws and stuff like that, but he never had a wrestling segment. He had a segment where he either appeared, attacked somebody, or did something, you know, but never an actual match. So when I went to that first WrestleMania, that's where I didn't even know I was going to be at the WrestleMania the following year in Louisiana. So I said to myself, you know, do I make this, you know, when I was back home, I said to myself, do I make this now a yearly trip since I've missed so many WrestleManias? Because I think that was WrestleMania 33. So yes. I said to myself, it's been 33 WrestleManias and I'm finally here. I've missed 32 of them in person. Do I finally start, making this a yearly thing? Like I, clear my schedule every year just to attend WrestleMania. And, 2018, Louisiana came. And I was really happy. I was really happy. And I was happy to see that The Undertaker was coming back. You know what I'm saying? And at that point, just because I fell in love with the city of Louisiana, I said to myself, man, I think this is the best WrestleMania ever. But it wasn't the best WrestleMania ever, because then 2019 came and I finally got to experience WrestleMania in my backyard of New York City. And, women for the first time were main eventing WrestleMania. So that WrestleMania to me was great. It was phenomenal. It was amazing. I mean, it was long. It was long. Yeah. But what made it extra special was that was the first time at a WrestleMania that I was able to sit front row. And it was courtesy of Donna, Dave Bautista's mom, because Batista was having his last match against Triple H. So I remember sitting there in the front row with Donna, watching her son have his last match, watching all the action. And it was just amazing. You know what I'm saying? It was amazing. And after that, I was looking forward to WrestleMania in Tampa the following year. But unfortunately, the pandemic happened. So, that WrestleMania, we didn't get a chance to go to Tampa, but we didn't get to go to Tampa to the following year. Yeah. So 2021 WrestleMania was great. I think everything was cool. We got to see what could have been, the very last of Bray Wyatt. We don't know if Bray Wyatt's ever coming back to WWE. It was special to me because women were main eventing WrestleMania again. And that Sasha and Bianca match really, really, really made me happy. You know what I'm saying? Another thing that made me happy was, I don't think I ever told you this, Josh, but I never had seen Edge wrestle. When Edge came back at that Royal Rumble, I wasn't there. I was supposed to go to that Royal Rumble, but I couldn't make it. So, and then the pandemic started. So all of those matches that Edge had were in the PC Arena and the Thunderdomes and whatnot. So, for the first time in my life, I was going to see Edge in a WWE ring, and I was going to see Edge actually wrestle. So I was happy. I was really happy. And I didn't know that was going to be Daniel Bryan's last WrestleMania in the WWE. So it was special that night. It was special. Plus, it was more special to me because the NWO had got inducted to the Hall of Fame. My good friend, my mentor, Titus O'Neil, was inducted into the Hall of Fame as well as the Warrior Award recipient. And, I'm glad that the NWO got inducted because, unfortunately, we lost Scott Hall this year before WrestleMania. So, that WrestleMania was special to me. But, Josh, this year's WrestleMania, I was not expecting it to be. And, I was already thinking like, oh, man, it's going to be another 2 nights. Because, Saturday and Sunday, WrestleMania in Tampa was cool. The weather was great, right? Because it was Florida. But it was, what was so special about it? It had been almost a year since we had all spent time with each other, right? We haven't seen our wrestlers. We haven't seen our friends. So when I went to those after parties, I was happy. I was partying with Rob Van Dam. I was partying with, the Nigerian giant Omos. I was partying with so many, Ric Flair. I was partying with so many people because it was just great to see everybody again. You know what I'm saying? It was great to see everybody, everybody was back. We had such a great time. A lot of the wrestlers were just having a good time. I remember that night, the first night that I was there, we were just having a good time. I had just met with Georgia, which is actually a British Bulldog's daughter.
Oh, okay.
She's a friend of mine. We became friends on social media. We actually finally met at WrestleMania. So I spent some time with her. I spent some time with Davey Boy Smith Jr. I spent some time, Harry Smith actually, and then I spent some time with their mom. And I was happy because I was like, oh my God, I was a big fan of Bret Hart. Here I am finally like meeting Bret Hart's sister. And we had such a good time. Shane McMahon had rented out the marina in the back. So he had a big party going on. He came in, he was busting my chops for a living. Braun Strowman comes over, makes everybody laugh because Braun was like, hey Shane, are you acting up again? He was like, if you keep acting up, he goes, I'm gonna take you and give you another power bomb through the table over here. So everybody was just laughing, having a good time. And then the second night was just as great, because the second night I was able to bring some of my friends out to the party. I was hanging out with my friend Megaran. I got a chance to talk to Ric Flair. That was the first time that I seen Ric Flair again in person since the pandemic. I was able to thank him for the video that he did for ARCG Media for the 7-year anniversary. Right. We just had our 9-year anniversary. So next year is our 10-year anniversary. It'll be a decade since ARCG Media has been around. Hopefully Ric Flair can make me another video then, But yeah, Tampa was special. And, again, I met Drew. I met you briefly. But this year's WrestleMania, Josh, it was epic. It was epic for me, and I'll tell you why. Many reasons. I got to see my childhood hero get inducted to the Hall of Fame. I'm a big fan of a lot of guys. Like I'm a fan of Rock. I'm a fan of Austin. I'm a fan of Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Ultimate Warrior, Roddy Piper. The list goes on and on and on. But Josh, a lot of people don't know this. My favorite wrestler of all time was The Undertaker. I learned to fall in love with The Undertaker. As a kid, I was scared of him because, we all thought he was dead, right? We thought he was a zombie. But, as the storytelling kept going on, the only time I didn't like The Undertaker, to believe it or not, but kind of grew on me, was the American Badass era. I didn't like it because I was like, why is he on a bike? Why is he doing all of that? Why is he a person now? Why is he not the Phenom anymore? Why is he not the Dead Man? But he did a great job with the American Badass gimmick. You know what I'm saying? He cut his hair. He did a great job. And, and he was champion during that era. He had a lot of great matches. And The Undertaker's story, like he said at the Hall of Fame, one of the greatest stories that the WWE ever told was the story of Undertaker and Kane. Yeah. And, Josh, I was 35 because I'm 36 now. I was 35 when WrestleMania happened. And to see my hero, my favorite wrestler of all time, get inducted to the Hall of Fame, to get his flowers. Josh, you was there, that Hall of Fame speech. I could still hear The Undertaker in my head, in that Hall of Fame speech. There's one line, Josh, that he says in that speech. I'm not sure if you remember this, where he was talking about father kind of giving like a little bit of a history lesson. And, Taker said, no matter who I come across, treat him with respect. It could be the local catering guy. It could be the local security guy in the arena. And even though he's world champion, doesn't mean he's better than those people. Treat people with respect. And, that resonated with me so much because, Josh, how I am about, decency, human decency, humanity. There's so much stuff going on in the world right now. I mean, look what just happened the other day, this whole nonsense with women's rights being overturned. I'm a big advocate for these type of things. There's so much stuff going on in the world. I mean, there's still a war going on in Ukraine. There's so much going on in the world. And one thing I tell people all the time is world peace begins with hello. If more people shook hands, if more people hugged each other, if more people actually were decent human beings and did good things, the world would be a better place. But I want to save all of this stuff later on when we talk about mental health, because this kind of falls into the mental health category. Saw The Undertaker get inducted to the Hall of Fame. I mean, that weekend, I pretty much saw Taker like for 4 days. I didn't get to see Taker at Access for the statue reveal, but I did go to the Undertaker exhibit that they had. So I got to see the statue for myself. It was pretty iconic to see all those caskets, to see all the stuff from his legendary career, to even see like the outfits that he wore, the hat, the jackets, and able to touch it. I'm like, bro, this is like the closest thing to like touching the Undertaker. You know what I'm saying? Because his sweat is on that stuff. His body odor is on that stuff. So I got to see Taker at the Hall of Fame. Then we saw Taker both nights come out and Saturday and Sunday and give thanks to the fans. Those 2 nights that I saw Taker come out, I was almost in tears because I was saying to myself, man, I'm glad that Taker was alive to get this Hall of Fame induction because, Josh, unfortunately, some of these guys don't make it that far. Look at Vader. Big Man Vader was inducted to the Hall of Fame. He wasn't there to receive his flowers in person. Look in China. By the time she got inducted to the Hall of Fame, she wasn't there to get her flowers, I mean, we're glad to get his flowers before he passed away, But Taker, like that Hall of Fame induction, I've always told people there's only a few Hall of Fame inductions that are going to be the biggest and the baddest. And to me, I think Austin was one of them. Taker, he had his. When The Rock gets inducted to the Hall of Fame, it's going to be big. You know what I'm saying? When Triple H gets that solo induction to the Hall of Fame, when John Cena gets that Hall of Fame induction, when Randy Orton gets that solo induction, it's going to be big. It's going to be big. You know what I'm saying? Because these are big, big, big stars. You know, these are pioneers of what WWE is. So, you know, Friday was great. I went back to my hotel room and I just kept thinking about that Taker speech. And then Saturday and Sunday, all I could talk about was Taker. And then you and I went to the Superstore and we had some fun. You know, we called the match. You did a great job. I did a terrible job. I watch that video sometimes and I just laugh because even in the very beginning of the video, I'm laughing, you know, as I'm introducing you, you know, I'm like, you know, how do I introduce him? Joshua Lopez, but, you know, you did a great job. And, you know, and we got a chance to enjoy some of the stuff that was going on over there. So I'm very thankful that you got the chance to spend time with me. But the 2 nights at WrestleMania, the first night was great. Did I know Cody Rhodes was coming back? It was a little birdie in my ear telling me things, but I couldn't really help do anything because, you know, I don't want to be in heat with WWE. But I was happy, man. When I saw that giant American Nightmare thing, because, you know, as soon as you heard him say, you know, wrestling's family, whatever he says in the beginning of his intro, when his voice said that and the arena erupted, remember the lights were still black.
Yeah.
But as soon as he said that, wrestling has more than one royal family, and I saw that giant American Nightmare thing just beam in my face, I had a smile on my face, and I had chills. And I said, this is why they always say never. You know, this is a guy who left 6 years ago because he was having differences with creative and management, created his name, became a bigger star than he ever was, creates another wrestling promotion. And I will tell people this till the day that I die. That company, AEW, the reason why they are where they are today, and they've only been around for what, 3 years now? 3 years, yeah. The reason why they are where they are, respect to Tony Khan and respect to everybody, every pioneer that's helped, you know, from Chris Jericho to the Young Bucks. But dude, Cody Rhodes is the reason why AEW exists. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that he was able to create that business and come back home to the WWE and put on a stellar performance with Rollins, because dude, him and Rollins, and you know, you had a good view at WrestleMania. So you saw that match, you know, it was right there in your face. I saw it from the distance because I was in the press box. But dude, they put a stellar of a match. You know what I'm saying? Awesome. You know, Cody got injured during the match because, you know, Rollins kicked him in the head a few times and he had bruises and whatnot. But dude, it was a stellar performance. You know, this is a guy who's coming back 6 years later and he tore the roof down. You know what I'm saying? And then towards the end of the night, one of my other favorite wrestlers, I never thought in a million years I would see Stone Cold wrestle. By the time I started going to WWE, here's the thing. Austin was retired for what, 19 years, right?
19 years, yep.
That's what I'm saying. I was 35 years old, and I remember literally tweeting this, and I was like, dude, I'm 35 years old. It's 2022, and I get to see one of my childhood heroes from the Attitude Era, because the Attitude Era was when I grew up. That was my era, the Attitude Era. So I said to myself, I never thought in a million years that I would ever see Stone Cold have a match. And dude, he did great. You know what I'm saying? You know, big props to Kevin Owens, because, you know, I know there was a lot of criticism. A lot of the marks out there were complaining like, oh, they buried Kevin Owens. I'm like, no, they didn't. Kevin Owens wanted to fight Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was his childhood dream. You know what I'm saying? Kevin Owens and I had the same type of joy that night because he got the chance to fight one of his childhood heroes, one of the guys that he grew up watching, one of the people that made him get into the wrestling business. And I got the chance to see one of my favorites, a WWE Hall of Famer, a WWE legend, come out of retirement to have a match. And he did great. People are like, oh, Austin stiff. I'm like, dude, look at a match of Austin in the 90s and the 2000s and look at that WrestleMania. Austin wasn't stiff. Austin did great. You know what I'm saying? He did great.
Yeah, and you don't need to do freaking Canadian destroyers to have a good match. And that wasn't even a 5-minute match. It was like 15 or 17 minutes.
And they did great. They both did great. They looked out. You know, the art of wrestling is you're always supposed to look out for the guy that you're wrestling.
Right.
You have my back, I have your back. And Austin had Owens' back, and Owens had Austin's back. And it was great. And then the second night was even better. Triple H kicks off, you know what I'm saying? Comes down that ramp, because he just recently announced his retirement. Dude, that was beautiful to see Triple H, you know what I'm saying, come out and say, the proper way of saying goodbye to the WWE Universe, retiring the right way, not retiring in a retirement match or anything. Like, they literally gave Triple H an opportunity to say goodbye to the fans the best way he could. And then, those matches were great. And that for the rest of that night. And then, I didn't think Vince McMahon was going to have a match. So, now I said to myself, dude, I saw Stone Cold have a match. I've seen Vince McMahon have a match. My heart's complete. And then the Roman match with Rock, it was pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? Roman got injured in the middle of the match. He still carried on. Brock made him look good. He made Brock look good. It was beautiful. And then we got the chance to see The Undertaker one more time say goodbye to the crowd again. It was epic. It was epic. And then Monday Night Raw was great. Cody came out, did his thing, gave us a speech, told us that he's back for one thing, and it's to get that WWE title, which I hope Cody gets in the near future. And, it was just a great night. We got to see Ezekiel make his debut. A lot of cool things happened, man. And, after that Monday Night Raw, I actually ran back to Kay Bailey Convention Center, and I saw The Undertaker have an intimate event with fans where everybody, asked him a question. And, I got to learn so much things about Taker. Like, I got to learn that Taker likes Tex-Mex food, that he likes to eat pizza, that he's a big bourbon guy. These are stories that I never knew that, we got to really hear a lot of things from The Undertaker. And, it was so intimate. I felt that Taker was talking to the whole room, but, I felt a personal connection, even though I didn't get a chance to talk to him personally or whatnot. And I didn't really get a chance to actually meet him during those meet and greets, which I kind of regret. But I had a great time. So, Josh, to answer your question, it was stupendous. I know there's going to be better WrestleManias to come, but for now, my favorite WrestleMania of all time was WrestleMania in Dallas. It was my second time in Texas. I had a great time. I met some new people. I went to WrestleCon and I was able to see some people. I spent time with you. I spent time with our friend Drew at the bar. I remember when, and then we saw the former WWE magazine editor, my friend Keith, show up, and I was able to talk to him. So I had a good time, man. The trip was great. Monday night I was already in tears, and I said to myself, man, I'm flying out tomorrow. Almost everybody's going back home. And I didn't even want to leave the hotel, the Omni, where the talent was at. I kept going there for lunch and breakfast and dinner and all of that. But once I got to the airport Tuesday, I said to myself, man, this was the best WrestleMania that I've ever been to. I don't know what's going to top this. Next year's WrestleMania has got to be top notch to top this. But I had a very good time in Dallas. Very, very good time. So, to summarize that, I got to see The Undertaker get inducted to Hall of Fame. That was one of the most precious moments that I got to experience. I'm thankful for that. And I look forward to, in the future when WWE returns back to the AT&T Stadium,
Rob, not only it had to be fulfilling for you as a longtime fan, going through the experience with The Undertaker, but also like professionally and what the work you put in the prior year. You're getting these opportunities to be in the press box and have those credentials. You earned that. You earned that ish. You know what I mean? I'm giving you files. You earned it. You busted your ass. You made a day for yourself. You put the grind in, and you deserved everything you got out of that trip. So it was really cool to see that firsthand in person, to see the excitement for you that was going on during that weekend. And I am as well Undertaker Mark. He was the first wrestling character I fell in love with as a kid. I actually have the Taker, thank you Taker from the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I remember seeing that all night, all over the place.
This could be a nice picture for my studio for however long I still have this thing here. But seeing Taker there get inducted, for me, I have bias, but I think it's the best Hall of Fame speech I've ever seen for the Hall of Fame. Just all the life lessons, earning respect, like you mentioned, grinding, and a lot of it always came back to the number one thing: respect. if you don't have respect, in my opinion, you don't have anything. And I think Taker is the embodiment of respect and just how everybody carried themselves. People getting emotional on the stage, Vince getting emotional on the stage when they had that hug and everything going through. I got emotional during the Hall of Fame speech. It was just something I will never forget. As far as the weekend itself was concerned, I just thought it was really cool. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Dallas is an oddly shaped design town and how it's like a never-ending intersection. Sometimes I felt like we were going in circles. But I thought the layout and everything was really cool for WrestleMania weekend itself. Going to Access with you was fun. Calling that match. Getting to see a lot of the cool artifacts there. WWE staff does a great job with that every year with how they lay those stuff out. And, go to AT&T Stadium for me was a cool part of the trip for myself because, you hear about it, you see it on the TV screen all the time, the Cowboys when they inevitably lose and stuff. It's like they got the coolest sports stadium in the United States, in my opinion, but for an unfortunate franchise, I don't understand. But I just thought that experience was cool and seeing everything that went into that. And then, to your point about Stone Cold Steve Austin, that was my first time seeing him in the match too. That was really, really an awesome moment I won't forget. And I got really emotional seeing Triple H out there for night 2 coming out because I look up to Triple H in a lot of ways and how he carries himself as a student of the game. I attach that to every transcript I do, and that mindset of being a student of the game, I model that after Triple H. So get to see him get his flowers like that in the beginning of the show is really, really special. But for me, my favorite part of the trip was getting to hang out with you and Drew and just that experience of just hanging out with the guys. And it's definitely up there as far as one of my personal favorite WrestleMania trips. It's kind of full circle if you look at it, not only from a professional point of view, but also a personal point of view. As fans, we got to see Taker go to the Hall of Fame. Triple H said goodbye. Austin has probably his last match. Everything Vince McMahon. I saw Vince McMahon at my first WrestleMania fight Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 22. Oh, wow. And to see that, it's just something in the trip I'm sure both of us will never forget. So let's
not forget, Josh, that was also the most grossing WrestleMania of all time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We had over almost 120,000 fans in 2 nights. I mean, that was amazing, man. The first WrestleMania they did there, they had 101,000. And then 2 nights combined, they had almost 120,000 fans. I mean, that was great. That was big,
Yeah, the money they got, the town, the Peacock numbers for how much people watched it. Hey, Rob, it's really interesting how much money WWE makes off of people that hate watch it, right? You know what I mean? It's really something, man. If you're really looking at those metrics, hate watch is a real thing, ladies and gentlemen. Just be on the lookout for that. You mentioned Cody Rhodes. I'll be honest with you, maybe it's more on the presentation from AEW's point of view that was kind of a hit and miss for me, but I've always respected Cody for what he did. And his run prior to this fortunate bicep tear that he had before Hell in the Cell, it was really something that I knew that was coming because you felt the energy in the arena when he made his return end of night after the speech and his goal turn again that WWE title. And I was really excited to see what was going to come for Cody. And also he got a chance to main event Hell in the Cell here in Chicago. And it was very sentimental for him because, AEW Chicago's a big city. He had a big part of that. They had the All In show before AEW became a thing. And Cody, of course, out of anybody, I don't care if I got turned by. I'm going to go there and steal the show. And he ended up having one of the best matches of the year with Seth Rollins. And I think it's been one of the best rivalries of the year as well. I just want, for your opinion, as somebody who's knew Cody as a friend and just seeing what he did before the unfortunate injury went down, what has your thoughts been about Cody Rhodes in WWE and what possibly we can see when he comes back? Like, I think there's a lot of money still left on the table when he does come back, because you probably saw numbers of what he was pulling merch-wise and the tickets that are being sold. It's like, what's your thoughts on all that?
Man, first off, I want to say my hat's off to Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare. When Cody was in WWE in the beginning and he was just regular Cody Rhodes, and he teamed up with Goldust for a little bit, and he did his thing where he was Intercontinental Champion a few times, and also even when he was part of the stable with Randy and the $1 Million Man, I felt, I never saw that Cody Rhodes be the Cody Rhodes that he is now. And, growth is one of the most important things in life, Josh. When you think about growth, you think about like somebody like Cody Rhodes. Yeah, he comes from one of the biggest prestigious backgrounds. His father was the American Dream. His brother is the iconic and legendary Goldust. There'll never be somebody like Goldust ever again. Yeah. But how does Cody become his own person? Because Dusty Rhodes already became his person. He was the American Dream. Everybody remembers Dream, and everybody, has nothing but great things to say about how Dusty impacted wrestling. How he helped the WWE and WCW and NWA and all these other companies. And had he still been alive, he definitely would have helped with AEW as well too. Look at the people down in NXT. Look at all these people that say that American Dream is one of the people that helped them get where they're at. And people have nothing but great stories to say about him. Same thing is going to be said about Goldust. Goldust did great. He had a great career. He did his thing as Dustin Rhodes. Then he did his thing, as Goldust. Everybody's always going to remember. Don't forget the name Goldust, So then you got Cody, and then Cody's got to figure out, well, how do I become like them? How do I become like my dad? How do I become like my brother? So he has to leave the WWE because, Stardust gimmick wasn't working for him after a while. It was fun at first, but after a while, he wanted to become Cody. He didn't want to become the American Nightmare. He just wanted to become Cody. He wanted to become a star. And at the time, it just wasn't in the cards, not at least with the WWE, and it was okay. So they parted ways in a good way. It's not like Cody left and said, screw you guys. He didn't do like a CM Punk thing where he just walked out. He actually, asked for to be released from his contract, got released, never really burned any bridges with anyone. And, in my opinion, I feel like he always left that door open for a WWE return. But, he went and did what he needed to do. And he traveled the world. What happened during that time was, and I tell people this all the time, I'm happy that Cody's back, but unfortunately, and no disrespect to Cody, I don't want anybody that watches this to take this the wrong way. You got to understand that, Cody's a little older now, and in those 6 years, he did so much, and there was a lot of wear and tear, the meniscus, all these other things. So when we got Cody back at WrestleMania, we had, it was good to have him, but we kind of had a version of Cody that's already been beaten down a little bit. So the thing is, this thing that just happened to Cody with the tear is a blessing in disguise. It's a blessing and it's a curse, because at least now Cody gets some time to rehab and Cody gets some time to relax. Because remember, from his little break from AEW when he left, it wasn't that long. Because everybody knew Cody was coming back to WWE. So Cody had it. It's like he literally opened the door from AEW, walked out, walks into the WWE door. That's how quick it was. So now, I hope that Cody takes his time, which I know he's going to do. He's going to take this time to focus on himself, redesign, rebuild, and reclaim, which is something that Rollins created, right? But, and it's so funny that, him and Rollins Rollins was his last opponent before his injury. So, he's going to focus on himself. He's a father now. So he's going to spend more time with his child. He's going to spend more time with his wife. He's going to spend more time strategizing how he's going to become a better American Nightmare. And look, whether it's 9 months from now or when he can come back, it's going to be a major impact. And something, Josh, what I like about the WWE the most nowadays is their documentaries. I'm sure you like their documentaries. Their documentaries are so well put together. Yeah. I love watching their documentaries. I love watching the 24 episodes of the WrestleManias, how the WrestleManias happen behind the scenes, the Royal Rumbles, all these things. And dude, there's not going to be a better story than the one that Cody's going to have, where they're going to show us Cody's return, Cody's injury, Cody's rehab, and when he comes back to the main roster.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, speaking about human decency, Cody Rhodes is one of those people. Cody is nice. Cody is respectful. Cody acknowledges the fans outside of the arena. He talks to them. He talks to people. He's not stuck up. Cody will sit there and have a conversation with you. The interactions that I've had with Cody have been outside of the WWE. They've always been outside of WWE. I never really had the chance to talk to Cody within the WWE. And I'm close to Cody thanks to my friend Stu Bennett, because, when he was in WWE, Stu told me that Cody was the one that used to give all the guys in the back cigars, because Dusty used to do that back in the day. So a lot of the guys that I'm cool with, we're cool because we smoke cigars together. And, one of the things I told Stu was, I said to him, dude, one day I just want one of the greatest experiences of my life. I want to have a cigar with you, because I already had a cigar with Stu. I'm like, I want to have a cigar with you and with Cody. So I'm still hoping that happens. So when I saw Cody at Ring of Honor, you remember when Cody had his first, I think it was Final Battle, where he fought Jay Lethal, after party, and Prince Nana invited me to the after party, and I got the chance to speak with Cody, and that's the photo that you see that Cody and I took together. And I was able to give him some cigars, and I spoke to him, and I told him, Cody, thank you for everything you're doing. And again, he just became the American Nightmare, but he's still not the big Cody Rhodes that he is now.
Right.
So, I thanked him for everything he did for the WWE. I thanked him for everything he was doing at the moment. And I wished him a lot of success and a lot of blessings. And he shook my hands. He gave me a hug. He asked me what my name was. I told him who I was. And he was like, oh, yeah, you're the cigar guy, right? I was like, yeah. And, we kicked it off. We had a few words with each other. I spoke to Brandy as well, too. And then every time I saw Cody at a convention, Cody knew who I was. And Cody knew I was coming to give him cigars. Now that he's back in WWE, I haven't had a chance to talk to him yet. But when he comes back, hopefully, one of the days that I'm backstage or whatever, or I'm hanging out with the guys, I could be able to start talking to Cody. And I could let him know that I had his American, I'm not sure if you know this, but Cody has a cigar as well, too. It's called the American Rebel. But, Josh, Cody's return is important. It's big. It's something that WWE needed, because WWE has changed so much over the years. You know what I'm saying? And this is why they always say never. This is why, with all the stuff that's happening nowadays, the forbidden door and this and that and whatnot, dude, just literally never say never. You never know when somebody's going to come back. You never know who might debut. Who might show up at WWE. People didn't think AJ Styles would ever go to WWE, right? But he did. You know what I'm saying? And people never thought, and you and I never saw this coming. We never saw Cody Rhodes ever coming back to the WWE. I thought Cody was there to stay. And just to show the fact that Cody did his thing and didn't even try to be selfish to try to take the world title while he was there and have his reign as the AEW World Champion, that's just to show you the kind of person that he was. He was like, I'm not taking this title. This title is going to go to other people, and maybe sometime down the line, maybe I'll become champion. Cody put everybody else first, you know what I'm saying? And that's what a true leader does, and now that he's in WWE, people keep thinking, well, now he doesn't have the rights that he had in AEW. I'm like, look, let me tell you something. Yes, he may be a wrestler on the main roster, but one of the main reasons why Cody came back is because Cody's actually going to be a part of a lot of things. There's things in the future, like things in the works, like they're going to do a new Dust documentary. There's a lot of things. There's even been talks that Cody, when he comes back, he's going to be going down to NXT and talking to some of the guys, pick up, where he left off. You know what I'm saying? So, Cody's return to the WWE is much bigger than people can imagine. It's not just for him to come back and win the WWE title. It's much more than that. It's much more than that. And, Cody knows all about giving back. Cody knows how much the business means to many of us. Cody knows that, wrestling is not just a coping mechanism or an escape for people, but he knows that it's something people breathe and live. And Cody does, and Cody feels the same way. He even called himself a mark, one day. He said, we're all marks, and I'm glad that he's back. I'm so happy. I really hope that as far as booking, things go well with him always. You know what I'm saying? I hope that this time around they do right by him. I mean, I hope they learned their lesson the first time. They don't want to lose Cody twice, Right. But I hope that, in the near future, Cody could be a big part of the WWE management, whether it's, an executive or whatever the case may be. But, the most important thing is I just hope that Cody's happy. That's all I care about, because, regardless of all the money they gave him to come back and all the list of deliverables, I just hope that he's happy. Because one thing people realize is this is the reason why he left AEW to begin with, because he wasn't happy. And, people, criticism, and Josh, you heard this so many times. People were complaining, oh, he's a traitor. Why would you do that? Why would you leave? And I tell people, look, if you want to blame anybody, blame the management at AEW. Blame Tony Khan for not being a good businessman enough to keep Cody Rhodes there. And I don't want Tony Khan coming after me now after hearing this, but I hope this also teaches Tony a lesson as well too. In the near future, to make sure, especially people like Cody that helped build the business, make sure in the future that you do what's right, you do what's best for business, for everyone, not just for you, but for everyone. Because if that was the case, he would still be there. But you know what? Everything happens for a reason.
Right.
It was calling. It was in the cards. He was supposed to come back. He's back. I'm happy. You're happy. A lot of people are happy. So when he comes back, I look forward to what's to come next.
I'm so happy for Cody because kind of like Triple H in a lot of ways, he's a man of his word and he lives in the moniker that he has for himself. Do the work. I don't know anybody in wrestling for wrestlers that live that moniker more than him. Everything you just said about the Human DC, the Nightmare Factory, how he handled his stuff, the situations in AEW, doing the work. That's Cody Rhodes to a T. And I always have respect for people who live up and live to their word because your word actually means something and your actions have to follow through with your word as well. And Cody was having a lot of fun. And I think there's so much potential money on the table as far as feuds are concerned with, maybe linking it up with Randy Orton one more time as a grudge feud. Roman Reigns, maybe you can rekindle Seth Rollins down the road. You don't have to redo it right when he comes back. But, there's just a lot of talented people. Kevin Owens. There's a lot of people Cody could have a lot of money feuds with when he comes back. And I think there's sky's the limit as far as
I feel that every feud that Cody is going to have moving forward, they're going to be pretty big. I mean, I don't know if they're going to top Rollins because that Rollins feud was a good storytelling, especially with the Tor Peck, how that match was just phenomenal. But yeah, every feud to come is going to be pretty special and very unique. This is a new Cody Rhodes.
Absolutely. Really quick, before we get to our mental health topic, I wanted to bring up what's coming up this weekend, Money in the Bank at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, and talk a little bit really quick about the on-location venture WWE is doing right now. I just want to talk a little bit about it because we're speaking about Cody Rhodes. I actually have one of the landlords, these are landlords that they give out to people depending on whatever package you get for a
press badge.
Yeah. And what's really cool about it is that you get your own entrance into the arena beforehand, before the pay-per-view starts. And I got to give props. I did not purchase a on-location package for this particular Hell in a Cell show. My uncle got it for me for my birthday, so I went to the show with him. So
that's a nice birthday gift, man.
Yes. It's a cool dude. The staff for On Location that had the whole setup and everything in the Allstate Arena, I thought they did a fantastic job. And for those who are in Vegas this weekend, make sure you go to the box office because that's where you got to get it. And they have like an size entrance before you go into the building On Location. They do a really good job. It's a really good staff, and it's very professional how they handle the consumers going there. They had meet and greets before the show. Seth Rollins and Becky was the meet and greet for Hell in the Cell, which was really nice. And I recommend for anybody to get On Location if you want to do something like that. So I want to get that out of the way first. But we do have the pay-per-view coming up on Saturday. I enjoyed the Money in the Bank pay-per-views for the concept. I always enjoyed the matches over the years. I'm kind of biased, but still don't think it's going to top Money in the Bank 2011 for me. But, Rob, with this pay-per-view, what I like about the card is really the emphasis on the current day roster and the field of the current day roster in both the men's and the women's ladder matches, especially the women. I think the women's match, ladder match could steal the show. Like you got Alexa Bliss, you got Liv Morgan, you got Shotzi, Raquel Rodriguez, Lacey Evans just came back from her maternity leave. that Becky Lynch is in the match. She got her spot on Monday on Raw. Anything could go here. So we got that ladder match. Then, of course, we got the men's match. Matt Riddle, Seth Rollins, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, Omos. You got Omos. He's in the match as well.
It's going to be a dangerous Money in the Bank, man.
By the way, shout out to MVP for his diss track that he dropped on Hell in a Cell. I thought that was pretty good, by the way.
By the way, Josh, don't forget, we still have one guy that's missing for the one spot. So we don't know if on SmackDown we're going to get a match, to decide who's that last person. Because, on Monday, we didn't see Kevin Owens versus whoever it was, Ezekiel Elias or Elrod.
I got a pop from Elias's money. He's like trod with Elrod. It's funny, too. Michael Cole mentioned it on SmackDown last week that everybody that's in the Money in the Bank ladder match will be on SmackDown as we're recording this on Friday. So, we'll probably get that last qualifying match, and it should be pretty cool to see how that goes. Other matches in the card, we got Bobby Lashley against Austin Theory for United States Championship. Bianca Belair against Carmella. Match I'm kind of intrigued because I don't think Carmella gets enough flowers for how she carries herself in the ring, and I think her and Bianca had a good match. Ronda Rousey and Natalia, you want to talk about pettiness and stuff on social media. That's going
to. We're finally getting that match, Natalia. And, one of the reasons why Ronda's in the WWE is because Natalia helped to get there, with training and stuff. So we're finally going to see them, go one-on-one, and this time for the title. So it's going to be a very interesting match.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how that plays out. They're not going to hold back. They're going to lay their shit in. Let's just say that. That's going to be an interesting match.
Yeah, they're two fighters, so it's going to be a good match.
And, of course, we got the Usos putting their undisputed tag team titles on the line against the Street Profits. So, Rob, for the matches that are on the card, what are you looking forward to, and who do you think are going to win the prospective Money in the Bank ladder matches?
Well, as far as the undisputed tag team titles, I'm a big fan of the Street Profits, but I'm going to go with the Usos. I like the storytelling. I think that the Bloodline is going to dominate for a very, very long time. As far as the women's Money in the Bank, I don't know. We might see Becky win, but who I want to see win? I want to see Liv Morgan win. I want to see. I think that everybody that's been there, aside from I forget her name. I call her the Southern Belle still. What's her name again? Lacey Evans. We might see Lacey Evans win, but I do want to see Liv Morgan win because out of all those people there, Liv is one of the only people that's never won the Money in the Bank, and she's also one of the people that's never won the women's title. So I think Liv Morgan's time is coming. As far as the match between Natalia and Ronda, it's going to be a pretty cool match, but I think Ronda's really going to dominate because Ronda's just that good. And I love Natalia. Natalia and I are close, so no disrespect to Natty, but I love her. But I think Ronda's going to win. As far as the men's Money in the Bank match, we still don't know who that final person is. I don't know, man. If Cody was healthy, I'm sure Cody was supposed to be in that match. I was rooting for Cody to win that match.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It might be Rollins again, or it might be Riddle. It's something new for a change. If Riddle wins, he's on his way to challenging Roman at any given moment for the undisputed championship. What other matches do they have on the card?
Lashley and Theory for the US.
Lashley and Theory. I'm a big fan of Lashley. But Theory's, he's the new deal, So I would love to see Lashley win the United States title, but I honestly think that Theory's going to retain. What are the other matches?
Then Bianca and Carmella is the other.
That's right. Look, you're right. People don't give that much credit to Carmella, and I think Carmella's super talented, but Bianca Belair is my girl, man. So Bianca.
Yes. It's conflict of interest. I enjoy both ladies. I think they're going to put on a good match. I think right now Bianca Belair is the best overall female performer in the industry right now. Just the role she's on.
EST, man. She's the EST.
Yeah, damn right she is. So Money in the Bank should be an interesting event on Peacock. Very rarely you get like poor quality premium live events. So I'm sure this one should be a lot of fun.
It should be fun. It's very interesting. That, the fact that they're going to be in a different arena as well. Like it's not going to be the Allegiant Stadium. It's going to be the MGM. I can't even remember when was the last time the WWE, if they ever did a show at the MGM. Is this the first time?
I think it is actually.
Yeah. So I look forward to that. I look forward to the lay. I mean, I know the layout's always going to look standard, but hopefully they could do something special with it because it is the MGM. So it's probably going to look pretty cool.
Yeah, and then after Money Bank, we got SummerSlam come up in Nashville. Roman and Brock, last man standing. See how that plays out, and then they got
that's going to be a crazy match.
Cardiff, Wales Stadium show, Clash at the Castle. So that a lot of big time events coming up from WWE in the next.
That's overseas, yeah.
Rob, before we wrap this bad boy up, it is Men's Mental Health Month. I am a big advocate of mental health. We talk about a lot of it here on the Hoots Podcast and try to share some wisdom and give people a bigger picture mindset to issues that maybe they don't want to acknowledge or don't put the time in to really acknowledge what the realities of those ailments, diseases, because people can say what they want, but mental health is a real deal, and it is a disease, and it does affect people in the long term. And I feel bad for people who put a bad light on it because they don't want to engage in real conversations. They just rather be like a robot and try to put things on the side and act like how everybody else does in today's society. But I think for me, mental health is one of the biggest issues plaguing the country and how we communicate with each other and how we live our lives. I've struggled with my own mental health from a self-doubt point of view. And other people have different factors of mental health and depression and stuff like that. What does men's mental health mean to you? And what was your story, if you have any, when it comes to mental health?
Look, men's mental health is very important to me. Mental health overall is important to me, but I'm a big part of an organization called Movember. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of them, but every November, I encourage people, men, to either grow a mustache, grow a beard, do something to support men, because Josh, a lot, when you look at the suicide rates, they say that more men, and especially in other countries, commit suicide than women, and people argue about this all the time, and they're like, no, there's no such thing, but there's a stigma out there. There's a stigma out there that sometimes people think that men aren't allowed to cry, men aren't allowed to show emotion, men aren't allowed to show tears. If you're a grown man, there's this expression that people use, and excuse my French, but people sometimes say, "Oh, he's a grown ass man. He why is he crying?" Like, remember when CM Punk came back, and that they showed that one guy, that fan in the crowd that was crying to see CM Punk. I mean, look. That guy, he was emotional because he got he never thought CM Punk was ever going to come back. And maybe he was one of the biggest CM Punk fans. That's why CM Punk went out his way to meet this guy after a few days and shook hands with him, got a photo opportunity. Dude, we're human beings. And here's the thing, Josh. We have a brain, we have a heart. As long as we have a heart, we have emotions, And this doesn't only go for humans, this goes for animals. Animals have emotions too, So anything that has a brain and anything that has a heart feels emotions, whether they're good emotions, bad emotions. And, growing up in a single parent home with a mother who has borderline personality, my mom was very difficult to live with. A lot of the stuff that she went through in her life, she kind of like pinned it on us, her children. She kind of blamed us for a lot of the things. She never really taught us stuff. And, I didn't have my dad by my side. So it was very difficult for me, Josh, to learn how to become a man. All these people that were supposed to be father figures, some of them lacked. My brothers were not. And, and I love my brothers dearly, but my brothers, they didn't raise me, to be a man. My father didn't raise me to be a man. My mom didn't raise me to be a man. Mm-hmm. I had to learn to become a man by myself, And, I started getting emotionally attached to other people, like other men, like, uncles and family friends and, neighbors. And they were the ones who gave me education. And then when I started working for companies, if my employer was a man, I would get emotionally attached to them, and they would teach me things, And, I was in denial for a long time that I had mental health problems. But when I realized that I used to get emotional a lot, when I realized that I used to get very moody and very overwhelmed, and I was shut down and not want to talk to anybody or whatnot, I said to myself, look, something's going on and I need help. So I started speaking to a therapist, and I've been in therapy for 4 years now, proudly. And I will say this, for everyone out there that thinks that, because of the stigma, men are not supposed to, screw that. Tell people what's going on. If you feel that the people that you're around you can't confide in them, that's fine. Go confide in somebody else. You will find somebody. Trust me. The amount of people that meet me when I'm on WrestleMania trips or traveling around the world, sit next to me at a bar, meet me at a hotel, and they just start, or on a plane, and they just start talking to me and telling me about their problems. You know why they do that, Josh? Because they can't confide in other people. And when you can't confide in, sometimes the people you can't confide in is your own family or your own friends. Don't feel discouraged. It's not the end of the world. There's more people out there. You know what I'm saying? I have a therapist. I have other people that I can talk to. You and I have had mental health conversations. I've had mental health conversations with other friends as well, too. People from the wrestling world, wrestlers. I've had mental health conversations with Brooklyn Brawler. I've had mental health conversations with Titus O'Neil, with Fred Rosser, who I know you're a big fan of. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Fred Rosser on winning that championship the other day. I'm very happy for him. But find the help that you need. Trust me, it's out there. And sometimes, and not sometimes, some of this help is free. There's free hotlines. Yeah. And you may not get help today, at the very moment, but you will get help eventually. All it takes is for you to just pick up the phone or reach out to someone and say, hey, do you have any connections, or, can you connect me to some resources, or go online? Or if you can, if you have a cell phone, if you have a laptop, go reach out to Movember. They're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook. It's Movember, MOVERMBER.com, Movember.com, and talk to someone. That's what I did. And going back to the Taker speech, when Taker was talking. Taker was literally saying, look, I had my mental health issues, I, had a problem where I didn't want to let down certain people in my life, but, I knew I didn't want to play basketball. I was miserable. I did. And here's the thing. What if Taker did what he did, just to fit in, just to please everybody? We probably would have never got that guy. We probably would have never got the legendary Undertaker. And he would have been miserable as hell. And who knows if he would have been alive right now. Probably would have killed himself a long time ago, But he became the Undertaker, became this person. And throughout his career, he met a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles. And then he met people with the same challenges and people who went through the same hurdles as well, too. And he was able to become a locker room leader and talk to people. And he realized, that, in that industry that you're in, it's very easy for you to be very cocky and very arrogant and whatnot. But he chose to be humble. And he started to, and I'm sure he met a lot of people in his career that were less fortunate, Yeah. And that's why he said, look, treat people with respect. And remember the part when he spoke about, you don't even know if a hello, or you don't even know if a hug or something is going to save someone's life. It's the truth. I mean, Josh, a lot of these people, like with all these mass shootings and all these crazy things that happen around the world, sometimes all these people need, and I know people are going to say, oh, you make it sound so easy, but it's the truth, man. Some of these people, sometimes all they need is someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just need a little bit of reassurance. They need to hear people saying good things about them. You know what I'm saying? Telling them that they matter. Telling them that they are loved, that they are appreciated. Giving these people a hug. Sometimes they could be, and it's happened so many times. They've even showed videos of it in the past of people out there deranged, about to jump off bridges, or people with a gun and a knife. And like that one guy who went into the hospital with like a knife or something, and a cop, instead of shooting him, actually spoke to him, gave him a hug, spoke to him, and gave the guy the help that he needed. How about that guy from the San Francisco bridge who almost jumped off the bridge a few years ago? You know, and that one officer came, spent all that time, and spoke to him. And this was a man of color. Typically you would think, oh yeah, he would have got shot, and they probably would have pushed him off the bridge. No, this was a white police officer who put humanity first, who put human decency first, and saw that there was a man who needed help, and he saved this man's life. And that's why when this man became an activist, he gave an award to that police officer, because that police officer saved his life. I'm not saying that every single scenario is going to play out the same way, but all I'm saying is people need to have more compassion. People need to be more, you just got to think for yourself for 1 second. Put yourself in their shoes. What if it was you on that end? What if you was the one jumping off the bridge? What if you're the one who walked in with a gun and a knife? How would you want people to come towards you? Would you want them to shoot you? Would you want them to hurt you? Or would you want them to sit down and try to talk to you out of it, So, I mean, look, men's mental health, and it's Men's Health Month. We got to take care of ourselves, man. You know what I'm saying? Women, they have their struggle, they have their rights being taken away, and they're fighting. They're fighting for everything. And that's one thing I love about women. Women fight for their rights because they had to scratch and claw. Men, a lot of stuff was handed to us. A lot of stuff was given to us. You know what I'm saying? So we kind of have an advantage. So what we have to realize is we're sometimes a step ahead of women, and we have to take full advantage of that. You know what I'm saying? And not just think that, we'll be fine. If we have a problem, if we're going through something, if we feel something, even if it's a lump in our throat or in our testicle or whatever, go get checked. Go speak to a doctor. Go seek a therapy. Speak to a therapist. Speak to a friend. And if people are taking you as a joke, tell them, look, man, I'm being really serious. Tell them, look, this is, I'm a very humorous person. I have a lot of fun with my friends. And sometimes when I approach them about certain situations, sometimes they don't know if they could take me serious or not. But, now I'm at a place with my friends where when I tell my friends, hey, I'm going through something, can you be an ear to listen? Can I vent to you? Now they take me serious. Now they know, because at first they were like, oh yeah, you're just joking. And at first they were like, what, you're going through problems? You're going through mental health problems? Oh, come on, man. You're the funniest guy on the planet. I'm like, look, even sometimes the funniest people in the world are going through problems. Look at Robin Williams. He was in pain for years. You know what I'm saying? So my advice to close this, Josh, to you, to everyone, if you ever feel something, don't hide it. Don't hide it. Don't ignore it, and don't acknowledge it. Don't disregard it. Don't downplay it. Don't dismiss it. Don't be in denial. If you feel something, if you gotta cry, if you gotta punch a wall, if you gotta vent or whatever the case may be, lock yourself up in a room, do it. Just don't hurt yourself. Don't do anything to harm yourself. Don't try to take your life away. Don't try to cut your veins. Don't try to shoot yourself. Don't do any of that. Reach out to someone. Talk to someone. If one person shuts you down, reach out to someone else. If that person shuts you down, then reach out to one of the hotlines or reach out to Movember. Reach out to me. Follow me on social media, Rob Aurelius. Come to me and talk to me. I can help you. But we got to break this. We got to break the stigma. Men's mental health matters. It always will matter today, tomorrow, and always. And men lead this world, so we have to continue to lead.
Bro, and we've had conversations about mental health and stuff that's bothered us on the phone. We've had real life conversations. Yeah. And one thing I can tell people is that you don't lose any self-respect by getting vulnerable or crying. I think that's the biggest misnomer in today's society, is that you can't be vulnerable or share emotion. And I tell this to everybody that will listen, that at the end of the day, you get more out of being honest and raw and let that emotion out than you would cling onto whatever fleeting pride you think you need to hold on to for whatever ego boost from somebody else. And I think a lot of the mental health issues and stuff like that always starts at home.
Yes,
because so many people are so tied down to what they were brought up to or what the expectations are from their families and stuff like that. And this life is not supposed to be dictated or judged by other people. You tell your story, and you don't have to subscribe to one ideology because that's just the way it was or the way it is. You got, I say on the show every week, be the authentic product that is yourself. If you're vulnerable, you're not weak. And I could say that to the cows come home. But Rob, my brother, man, this is a blast, and glad you're able to come on and share some time with me today. And we'll definitely do this again soon. Make sure to hit Rob up on Twitter at Rob Aurelius. Make sure to follow ARCG Media on Twitter as well. ARCG WWE Tour as well. Rob's next date will be Madison Square Garden for Monday Night Raw right before SummerSlam. Rob, man, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Everybody, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh Lopez Media. We'll have episode 316. It's crazy as a podcast. We reached a Stone Cold level episodes. But yeah, we have episode 316 tomorrow. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and get podcast show. Make sure to bookmark ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com as well. For Rob Aurelius, I'm Josh Lopez. Have a wonderful day, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.
Peace.